Hello, everybody. Welcome back to an episode of the Gamers Podcast. Back here, it's been a little while since the last podcast episode. I've just been, I know I mentioned this episode, finally talking about Battlefield 6. But I know I mentioned this would be an episode that would be happening. It's just taken me a while. I kind of wanted to wait until I got the full Battlefield experience. I know we did that Gaming Adventures episode where I kind of played it for the first time, that style, but I wanted to wait to make this podcast because just I wanted to get the full experience. I wanted to play through the campaign, wanted to play more of the multiplayer and the other features and whatnot. So I just wanted to wait so I could give you guys the full rundown and my full analysis of Battlefield 6. So apologies if it took a while, but we're finally here, finally doing it, talking about Battlefield 6. So just gonna get right into it. So I'm gonna break these podcasts down into like different parts, I guess, if you will. Kind of like I have in the past, like with Black Ops 6 and some other games before. I'll be doing this kind of as part one. I'm not going to label it part one or anything, but just for just for off the record reference. So this is basically part one, and then I'll do part two, maybe three parts. I might split up into three parts, but definitely one and two. This one I'll be doing basically just talking more or less about the campaign and the multiplayer and the overall gameplay. Just kind of more or less my raw thoughts about it. I'm not really going to be reading any articles or whatnot. And the second part, most likely, is just going to be I'll be reading some articles and kind of see what the community's perception of Battlefield 6 is. I've already seen a lot of stuff, but I'm going to be, boiling it all down into one podcast episode. So we'll be talking about more or less my experience, and I'll be reading some articles and whatnot in the next podcast episode about the Battlefield 6. Then it'll be more or less my final analysis. I'm also going to be playing a little bit more of it between now and the next episode. So yeah, definitely just, splitting up into two parts, making this right. And then I'll be doing my final analysis for the next episode, kind of like I did with Black Ops 6. Yeah, we're just going to get right into it. So, it's a good game, and it's controversial to maybe say that because I know there's been a lot of people, like I said, we're going to be getting more into this in the next episode when we're talking about, the community's perception of it, but there's a lot of people who don't like Battlefield 6, and, I could see maybe why they might have some problems with it. But me personally, I love Battlefield. I like the older ones like Battlefield 3 and 4. Battlefield Hardline was a good one. I'm a fan of the Battlefield series. And Battlefield 2042 wasn't the best to compare for the last game. Didn't really like Battlefield 2042 as much. This is a good Battlefield game. I like it. It reminds me more or less of the older Battlefields, like I was saying. It reminds me more of the classic Battlefield, especially with the structure of the campaign and whatnot. I love the campaign story. It's been a while since any shooter game like Battlefield or Call of Duty. It's been a while since they've come out with a good campaign story. I feel like the concept of campaign stories have kind of just fallen off in general, just with action shooter games like Battlefield and Black Ops and whatnot. As I was saying, I feel like the concept of campaigns, the stories have kind of fallen off. They've kind of lost their meaning, and I think most game companies are more or less focused on multiplayer. Of course, been some games like Call of Duty and whatnot where there hasn't been a campaign at all. So it was very refreshing to see a brand new campaign story within Battlefield 6. It was a great campaign. I finished it. I played through the full experience and whatnot. I really enjoyed it. It was a great story. Great, everything was good about it. I would probably rate it honestly 7 out of 10, maybe an 8 out of 10 if I had to give it a rate. But it was a very good campaign. Enjoyed the story along with the gameplay that kind of blended in well with that. I really enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the kind of futuristic between the the factions and whatnot, the Pax Armada and whatnot. Great storyline going there, and it's also not too far out of the realm of possibility. It's not too crazy futuristic, but it's like just the right tempo, I think. So I think they did a great job on the campaign. Some people might disagree with me on that. Like I always say, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but I personally like the campaign. It was very enjoyable, and I loved it, and it was very refreshing to see a new campaign coming out with the newer games in Battlefield 6. And I know I had mentioned earlier, in my Black Ops 7 podcast, my brutally honest review, I would not be buying Black Ops 7. I don't like it. I don't like the looks of it. I'm not going to waste my money on that for a game that I'm probably not going to enjoy just from what I've seen. And if you're interested in my analysis on Black Ops 7, go watch that podcast video. But it just, I'm not going to buy, I wasn't going to buy Black Ops 7. But looking at Battlefield 6, in the leading up, and I know I made a podcast episode before it came out when it was announced and whatnot. But looking through Battlefield 6, it was a good game compared to the other Call of Duty Black Ops 7 that came out more or less at the same time. I decided I was going to get Battlefield 6, and I actually got Battlefield 6 as a Christmas present. But I was going to buy it, but nice Christmas present I got there. I know I mentioned that earlier. But I was always going to get it, and I think it's well worth it. It's well worth the, if I were to have bought it, if it wasn't a gift. I would have, I think it would have been well worth my money. I think that it would have been worth it. And I hope, I know decent, I've also seen people who think the same way. Again, we're kind of going to wait till the next episode to get into that, trying to focus more or less on my raw thoughts, my specific thoughts on it. But I think it would be well worth my money. And I really enjoy the campaign. Kind of going to the multiplayer as well. Multiplayer is really good. It also reminds me more or less, again, of classic Battlefield multiplayer. Of course, you get all the cars and the tanks and whatnot you could drive, helicopters and whatnot. I love that. It's classic Battlefield. Reminds me a lot of Battlefield 4. I used to play back when it first came out. So the multiplayer is great. I think they did good with the, again, gameplay blend and whatnot. They did really good with that. Everything is really well done with the multiplayer. I think they did a good job with it. Again, people are going to disagree with me, but that's, each to their own, I would say. But I think this is the best, honestly, I think this is the best game we've had in a while. Black Ops 6 was pretty good when it came out. That was probably the last game I remember enjoying playing. And I'm trying to subgenre this. Like when I talk about games and whatnot, I'm strictly talking about shooter style games like Black Ops, Battlefield, Rainbow Six Siege, those kind of style of games. First person shooter games, the more the popular series, and popular franchises and whatnot. So I'm strictly talking about that when I'm talking about genres and whatnot. Of course, there's plenty of other styles of games, but I'm specifically talking about that genre. So yeah, I think this is the best game I've played in that specific category since Black Ops 6, and that was well over a year ago that it came out. So I think this is a good game. I think they did a good job with it. I think Battlefield 6 is the best franchise, the best Battlefield title to date, I think, to kind of disassociate from the other ones in the past that have been bad titles, honestly, to be truthfully so, they've been bad titles. But this is the best title I think that we've gotten in recent years, and I think, if you're the community, my message, I guess, to the Battlefield community, and I played Battlefield 2042, again, just to compare. I played Battlefield 2042. I didn't really like it that much. And, just to compare, I think if you're the Battlefield community, I think, and, of course, I'm more of a Call of Duty guy, and, I enjoy Battlefield, but I think if you're the Battlefield community, this is something to be happy about. This is something you want to kind of take as a victory, because, sometimes this is what game studios will do. They'll come out with a really good game. Now, I'm not saying this is specifically going to happen with Battlefield, but sometimes game studios will come out with a really good game, and then they'll kind of fall off. The next game won't be as good. So I say with this, enjoy Battlefield 6. If it's a game you enjoy, like me, if you enjoy the gameplay and whatnot, enjoy it. It's a good, brand new game that came out. I would say enjoy it. Enjoy what you have. Of course, if you don't like it, that's your that's your opinion. Obviously, you don't like it, but if you do enjoy this game, I would say take it. Take it and enjoy your time with it, because you never know when the next good game like this is going to come out. And that's of course what I'm doing. I play a lot, actually. I've actually been playing a lot recently, amongst other things. I play it regularly, so it's a very good game, and I just would say cherish it, because you never know when there's going to be a good shooter game, first-person shooter like this coming out again. Of course, we had the dumpster fire that is Black Ops 7, that nobody really likes. I'm very surprised that, I actually wonder how much they actually made off of that. They can't have not made a lot of money off of that. I feel like nobody bought it. Obviously, a good amount of people, but I don't know. But, in light of that, enjoy what you have. There are some other game modes I didn't really, I got into a little bit, but I didn't get into too much of the other game modes. I know they have some of the sandbox mode, Battlefield RedSec, a couple of the other game modes that I didn't really dip too much into. I dipped into more or less the main ones. I know they have the Battle Royale and whatnot. I didn't dip too much into that, and I think I'm going to try it over the course between this next episode, or this episode, the next episode I'll be coming out with. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. I'm going to play some of the other game modes, but this is more or less just the core of Battlefield 6. I wanted to come on here and talk about my thoughts and whatnot, my raw thoughts on it and analysis between the campaign and the multiplayer. I'll be talking a little bit more about the game modes next episode, amongst, like I said, the community's reaction to it and reception. That'll be part 2. But yeah, there's the other game modes like I said, dipped a little bit into it, but not too much. I don't want to speak too much on it. I don't want to speak too much on something that I haven't really analyzed, I should say. Excuse me. But I definitely played enough multiplayer and, of course, the whole campaign to be making this video. So I just figured I'd come on here and cover the main core of Battlefield 6 and stuff. Yeah, and funnily enough, actually, ironically enough, like I was saying, enjoy what you have, enjoy this. I think if you enjoy Battlefield 6, take it and enjoy it because, the gaming problem, funnily enough, it was like I was saying, it was one of the earlier podcast episodes I have was the problem with today's gaming. So it still holds up today, I think, even after so long ago. Podcasts were coming up on the podcast, but I digress. But yeah, it's especially it's so rare with good games coming out. There's been a lot of games coming out recently in recent years that aren't very good. It's gaming has kind of lost its touch, I would say. But I think this is a huge win for the gaming community for this Battlefield 6 to come out. I very well enjoy it, and I think it gives us hope for the future of gaming. I think so. Battlefield 6 is a good precedent for them to say I think it was very good, and it's just a good feel good about the future of gaming. At least for now. Until I see anything else, I think if they're going to be coming out with games like this even more frequently now, if this is what they're doing, I would like to see more Battlefield 6 games come out. At least in terms of the genre, first-person shooter franchises and whatnot. I would love to see more or less of this style. And of course, Battlefield is very unique in its own style, but I'd like to see them come out with more good games like this. So hopefully, gives us hope for the future and moving forward. But yeah, with all that being said, that'll pretty much wrap it up for me. Of course, like I said, we'll definitely be coming out with part 2 of this little Battlefield analysis sort of thing. Talking, like I said, more about how the community reacted to it. I'll be talking about a little bit more about the more game modes. I'll get some gameplay recorded for that, and I'll be talking about that when I have more experience playing it. But I figured, like I said, just coming on here, covering the main 2 core of the multiplayer and the campaign for Battlefield 6. Very excited about it, and I'll be definitely playing more over the course of this episode and next episode. Of course, comments are always welcome. Actually, it would be fun for you guys to comment down what you think about Battlefield 6. I'll take some of those comments and use them in that analysis. If you guys have played it, if you've seen, if you like it, don't like it, whatever it is it may be, it would be very relevant and very helpful, actually, for me to get the, play right into the community reaction style of the next episode for the podcast. So it'd be very cool. Your comment could be featured in my the next podcast. So I think that would be pretty cool. So I encourage you to comment down below, especially if you played Battlefield 6, what you think about it, and what your reception would be. And it'll, most likely, if you comment, most likely it'll be featured in the podcast. So I encourage that. Of course, general feedback also welcome as always. Be sure to subscribe for more content, like video, all good stuff, Discord, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, links in the description. And yeah, got a lot of big stuff coming. But for now, though, I will see you guys in the next video.